What's up, guys? The trailer for the new John Wick spin-off, Ballerina, has just been released, and there's a lot to cover. So let's get you a quick recap of what went down. The trailer opens with a young girl, Eve, sitting in a police station, partly covered in blood and holding a music box with a ballerina inside. This immediately sets a dark tone. Winston then approaches her and tells her about a special school where they
teach dances.
But we know from the John Wick universe that this is code for much more. We then fast forward to an older Eve, now trained by the Ruska Roma. Here's where we get a cool connection to John Wick. Chapter 3. We see the moment John visits the Ruska Roma, but this time from Eve's perspective, linking her back to John's world. Next, Eve visits the Continental and is greeted by Sharon, showing that the infamous Hotel for Assassins will play a big role in her story. She picks up some firearms and Winston addresses her by her full name.
Eve Macaro of the Ruska Roma. What a pleasure to see you again.
Revealing a bit more about her background and how she's tied into this universe. We're then taken to a snowy setting, which is presumably Russia. And here we see the movie's antagonist wielding a flamethrower, definitely promising some epic action. We also get a glimpse of Norman Reedus's character, who teases something big with the line,
You have no idea what you just walked into.
Of course, no John Wick movie is complete without a fight scene in a nightclub, and Ballerina keeps that tradition alive. We get to see Eve taking on enemies in a stylish club setting, a signature of the franchise's neon-soaked, high-energy action scenes. As the trailer progresses, we learn that Eve is hunting the people responsible for her father's death, making her mission one of vengeance. The stakes are high, and we get a glimpse of her facing off against the antagonist in what seems to be an intense showdown. And finally, the moment we've all been waiting for, John Wick himself makes an appearance. He arrives on a train and Eve asks him a question.
How do I start doing what you do?
In typical John Wick fashion, his reply is brief but impactful,
Looks like you already have.
anticipating how he'll tie into her story. First of all, we can see that the ballerina music box plays a significant role in Eve's life, presumably a keepsake from her mother or father. This keepsake symbolizes her emotional connection to her family, which explains why she clings to it throughout the trailer. It's also very telling that Winston is the one who picks Eve up from the police station, not someone from the Ruska Roma. This marks only the second time we see the police in the John Wick universe, aside from Officer Jimmy, who visits John in parts 1 and 2. This suggests Winston may have played a similar role in Eve's life as he did with John, considering that John also lost his parents at a young age and had a close relationship with Winston. This reveals an intriguing dynamic between the Ruska Roma and the Continental, suggesting they are more closely tied than previously known. Next, we see Eve training in hand-to-hand combat, firearms, and more under the guidance of the director from John Wick, Chapter 3. This likely sets her on her path of revenge to hunt down the people responsible for her family's murder. This likely includes a character known only as the Chancellor, who we see speaking to Eve while she's tied to a chair. Following this, she gears up at the Continental, getting the finest weapons from Sharon. This is a bittersweet moment, as it marks Sharon's final appearance, given the sad passing of actor Lance Reddick in 2023. It's a nice tribute to see him in his iconic role one last time. Eve then heads to a snowy location, possibly Russia, where she meets Norman Reedus's character. He seems to know something about the people she's after, and though his exact role is unclear, he'll likely help Eve in some way. The trailer is packed with action, featuring different combat scenes, including a helicopter shot and the classic John Wick-style club fight. One of the most intriguing moments is Eve confronting someone about her father's death.
They killed my father.
Finally, we see John Wick arriving by train. How is this possible? Well, Ballerina takes place between John Wick, Chapter 3 and Chapter 4, when John is in hiding with the Bowery King. My theory is that either Winston or the Ruska Roma requested John's help in avenging Eve's father's death. There's also a possibility that the same people Eve is targeting may be connected to John's past, perhaps even responsible for the death of his parents. This could explain how John ties into Eve's story. It's also confirmed that John will have action scenes, likely alongside Ana de Armas or Norman Reedus's character Pine. possibly in the final act of the movie.